Chapter 47-45. It was an aggressive stance. Obviously, no one in the Qiao estate could stop that wave of energy from approaching. Everyone present couldn't help but hold their breaths in concentration. What kind of daring person dared to come to the Qiao manor at this time to find trouble? Bang! A deafening explosion resounded throughout the entire back garden. Shortly after, a dozen white-robed figures flew over in a grandiose manner. Each of them held a silver basin in their hands. When that group of people stood in the center of the banquet, everyone was extremely shocked. It's people from the Underworld Palace. Why are those lunatics from Underworld Palace here? Don't they not care about the affairs of the world? Why did you suddenly come to the Qiao residence? From the looks of it, I'm afraid that the Qiao mansion has done something to offend the Hell Palace, right? Those lunatics from the Underworld Palace don't care when or where. If you offend them, they'll bite you like mad dogs. Shoo, keep your voice down. Are you afraid that they won't bite you to death? The crowd discussed among themselves as they looked at the dozen or so old men in front of them. Their expressions were strange and inquisitive. He did not understand the purpose of this group of lunatics coming to the Qiao residence. Led by Old Lai, the people from the Underworld Palace looked around. When his line of sight fell on a certain place. Following that, they charged towards the world group in an orderly manner as they swarmed forward. You're here to seek revenge on the Imperial Madam? The person from the Heaven Realm who had been bullied by Yi Qing Luo earlier couldn't help but voiced out. The gaze he shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with resentment and cold ridicule. Imperial Madam has quite a lot of personal enmity. Because of your personal enmity, it has swept away all of our excitement. The man sighed again and glanced in the direction of City Lord Xiao. This is City Lord Xiao's mansion. The people from the Underworld Palace are simply looking down on City Lord Xiao by barging in like this. That person's words sounded like mockery. But in reality, he was trying to sow discord. In an attempt to incite everyone present to dislike Yi Qing Luo. He also wanted to use City Lord Xiao as a hostage. As for the reputation of the Hell Palace, as people from the Heaven Realm, they had heard of it before. Those who were targeted by this group of lunatics basically had a 90% chance of dying. Yi Qing Luo had offended them. Even if the Di Zun came personally, this group of lunatics might not even give him face. Thinking of this, the person from the heavenly realm revealed a pleased expression. Madam, this is your personal vendetta. You should settle it yourself. Don't drag us into it. The man was still fanning the flames. Bang! A tyrannical Xian wave rushed over. The person who didn't expect that someone would dare to make a move at the Qiao residence's banquet couldn't avoid it in time. He was struck by the Xian wave and took 2 steps back, falling onto the ground like a dog eating mud. Shut up. The old man from the Underworld Palace glared at him fiercely. Did your daddy talk to you? Stop farting. Do you think I won't tear your mouth off? Those arrogant and vulgar words. It was definitely a madman from the Hell Palace. The man from the Heaven Realm felt embarrassed to be treated like this in front of everyone. Just as he was about to explode, they saw the group of old men who were called lunatics, the group of old men who looked at the people of the Heaven Realm with fiendish expressions. Their faces were full of smiles as they looked at Yi Qing Luo. The leader passed the silver basin in his hands to Yi Qing Luo. Madam, take a look at this. What is this? That look was as though he was presenting a treasure, waiting for praise. The group of people from the Heaven Realm looked at the people from the Hell Palace in astonishment, unable to believe their own eyes. Chapter 47-46. According to the rumors, wasn't the Underworld Palace a bunch of lunatics who didn't recognize even their own kin? They were proud and arrogant. In the past, many large forces had tried to rope them in. All of them had their heads blown off. Even if he wanted their help, he was also kicked out of the door. They were a bunch of unreasonable lunatics. But this bunch of lunatics was actually being so kind to a young girl. In fact, it could be said that he was fawning over her. Curry favor? It was impossible for this word to appear in the mouth of a madman from the underworld palace. But now, it was right in front of them. The people from the heaven realm were extremely shocked. However, the people from the earth realm were extremely calm. Most people in the earth domain knew that the Emperor Lady had a good relationship with the Hell Palace. When the Emperor's wife first arrived in the earth domain, he was the Lord of Hell of the Underworld Palace back then. He even worked as a handyman for Pei Sheng, Madame D's friend. They were already used to it, okay? Look at that group of people from the heaven realm, they look like they have never seen the world. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly, her eyes sparkled as she gave a faint smile. You think that I don't dare to kill you? She tilted her head, and her gaze slowly fell on Gu Jingyu. Looking at the expression on Gu Jingyu's face, there was a hint of surprise. The girl's smile became even brighter. The person I need is Elder Wu, but the person I'm unhappy with is also Elder Wu. Her faint voice was as clear as a bell. Her fingertips gently caressed Wu Chei's neck. In the next moment, her sharp nails would pierce through Wu Chei's neck. Unfortunately, I can't touch old Wu. Yi Qing Luo sighed helplessly, so I can only use you to vent my anger. Yi Qing Luo. Elder Wu did not dare to act rashly. His turbid old eyes were filled with panic and unease. Let go of Che, Yi Qing Luo shook her head as her gaze was calm and awe-inspiring. Since Elder Wu had already collaborated with the Palace of Darkness long ago, then you should know the objective of the Palace of Darkness. She smiled and glanced at Wu Chei, whose face was deathly pale. The smile on her lips bloomed like a sweet rose. Bright and flamboyant, it was indescribable. What the Netherworld Palace doesn't like the most is having a weakness. For example, this Palace Master of Dark Abyss Palace. What he hates the most is being tied down. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head, her gorgeous face was filled with an innocent expression. Why don't I help you get rid of this burden? As the girl spoke, her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. There's no need to thank me too much. After all, you've given me so many great gifts. Just treat this as a gift in return. There's no need to thank me. The second half of the sentence. She was still smiling. However, there was not the slightest hint of a smile in her long and narrow eyes. Instead, he slowed down the speed of his words. Every word pierced into one's heart. Old Wu's expression changed as he shouted sternly, "What are you trying to do? Let go of Che, She leapt up and flew towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo didn't move as she stepped on a pile of gravel. Densely packed witchcraft bugs crawled around her feet, quickly eroding the entire battlefield. Facing old Wu's swift attack of eagle claws, her smile became even more radiant. The icy coldness in between her brows slowly seeped out. TXT 2016 website, over 100,000, mobile phone can directly download TXT. Chapter 47. What are you interested in? They would be able to figure out what they wanted. If it wasn't for this group of people, it would be too weird. Yi Qing Luo wanted to poach him over to the world group. However, this group of weird geniuses probably had no choice but to fight with the group of youths in the world group, right? Wow! How did you do it? It's actually developed by you guys to deal with Gu? You guys are too strong. Let me see. The group of youngsters in the world group's eyes lit up as they swiftly rushed towards Yi Qing Luo's side, bending over to take a look at the silver basins in the elderly's hands. Old Lai and the others excitedly pointed at the silver basin and began to explain to them the principles and ideas behind making it. Yi Qing Luo. All right, she took back her words. It seemed like he could find an opportunity to poach someone from the wall. He had originally planned to let the Miaogu family and the witchcraft family work together to deal with the witchcraft insects that had escaped to the land domain. Now, the people from Underworld Palace had all been dealt with. It was not just a matter of convenience. It also reduced the losses of the land. The appearance of Hell Palace's people must have a close relationship with the world group. This caused the people in the heaven realm who still had resentment in their hearts to not dare to say another word. In the end, the people from the heaven realm could only endure their anger and discuss with City Lord Xiao the conditions for a ceasefire after the war. In the past, the heaven would have looked down on this group of people from the earth. Not to mention negotiating terms for a ceasefire with the land domain. But now, they didn't want to admit it, but they had to. The reason why they were able to survive this battle was entirely because of Yi Qing Luo's appearance. As for Yi Qing Luo, it was because of City Lord Xiao's request, which was why she led the world group to lend a helping hand. Most importantly, in this great battle. In the early stages, the Earth domain had suffered heavy losses. But ever since the world group appeared. Until Yi Qing Luo appeared. Then, the Palace of Abyss didn't differentiate between friend and foe. The heaven realm's losses were far greater than the earth realm's. In addition, the people in the heaven realm were already in a state of panic, and all kinds of forces had their own ambitions. The Tenyu Palace and the Ren family had stirred up a mess in the heaven realm. If the earth realm launched an attack on the heaven realm at this time, the heaven realm would not be able to survive. He was afraid that the heaven realm might not be able to defend itself. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, the World Alliance still decided to temporarily extend an olive branch to the land. Yi Qing Luo naturally wouldn't bother about these matters. Yi Qing Luo sat for a while and decided to leave to take a look at the witchcraft aristocratic family. Just as he was about to move, suddenly, dark clouds rolled over the horizon. It was as if the sky had been dyed with ink. Dark clouds covered the sky. It made one feel inexplicably depressed. This unforeseen event caused everyone present to raise their heads and look toward the horizon. Generally speaking, the heavenly dew phenomenon definitely meant that something major had happened. Under the rolling dark clouds in the sky, lightning flashed and thunder roared, as if a huge hole had been torn open in the sky. A ball of cold, profound light was faintly discernible. Following that, a row of orderly figures appeared in midair. In the blink of an eye, he was already standing in the center of the banquet. He was clad in black armor and wielded a black spear. His aura was dignified, and a hurricane surged. A powerful aura instantly enveloped the entire space. This caused everyone's faces to turn pale with fright. His gaze was filled with astonishment and shock as he stared at the row of figures that had suddenly appeared. Even the representatives of the large forces in the heaven realm couldn't help but feel their hearts thump as they panicked. There were 10 people in front of him, standing ramrod straight. And the profound waves on each of them were so majestic and thick that it made one shocked. TXT 2016 website, over 100,000, mobile phone can directly download TXT 2016. Chapter 47-48. This group of people. The armors and aura on them looked extremely familiar. Yi Qing Luo also felt that she had seen them somewhere before. Among the crowd, someone pointed to that direction and exclaimed, "God! God's Guard Team! It's the legendary God's Guard Team!" This exclamation instantly caused the entire banquet to burst into an uproar. Those who didn't know had a dazed look. And those who knew looked at those 10 people in disbelief and couldn't even scream out. God's Guard Team? Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly, not understanding what the so-called God's Guard Team represented. Old Man Sung's voice came from her mind. God's Guard Team is the highest-ranked army in the God realm. No matter if it's in the Earth realm or Heaven realm, they are equivalent to a legendary existence. Belonged to God realm? Which meant that these people were from the God realm? People from the God realm came to the Earth realm? How could this be possible? But the 10 people in front of her were emitting power and aura. Even those large powerhouses in the Heaven realm were as tiny as ants in front of them. People who could possess such power and power. Would they impersonate the God realm's guard team? They are real. Old Man Sung continued. The aura on them is indeed from the God realm. Yi Qing Luo's expression turned solemn. Isn't it said that there is no one left in the God realm? Which means to say that there hasn't been any activity in the god realm for hundreds of years. Why would they appear here with such great fanfare? She paused for a moment as her heart suddenly trembled. Could it be that the god realm and the Palace of Gloom have reached some secret deal? The mastermind of the Palace of Gloom is from the god realm. If he really has that ability and is related to the god realm's guard team, then he wouldn't have been hiding in the dark for such a long time. And it's impossible for him to start plotting from Nirvana realm. Hearing Old Man Song's words, Yiqing Luo suddenly had a guess. Yesterday on the battlefield, the mastermind of the Palace of Gloom made use of Gu Jingyu's body to exchange blows with me. I feel that the opponent's ability isn't particularly strong, at least not as strong as Xian. The person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness is actually increasing his strength step by step, right? Therefore, I started from the lower realms of the Nirvana realm. As my strength grew, I slowly gained control of the heaven realm, and then, the god realm. Old Man Song replied very straightforwardly, the god realm is impossible. The god realm is not as simple as you think it is. Yiqing Luo's gaze once again fell onto those 10 men team with majestic imposing manner. Then tell me. These people openly came to the earth boundary. What are they trying to do? Let's wait and see. Old Man Sung pondered for a moment. If the Divine Guardian Squad really wants to do something, none of us can stop them. While the two were talking, the captain of the Divine Guardian Squad, Ru Ju, swept his gaze across the crowd. Finally, his line of sight stopped at a certain place. A group of people walked straight ahead. Almost instinctively, the people around him moved aside and made way for him. Until the 10-man team stopped at the World Group's side. The iron-armored tough guys God's Guardian Squad's solemn gaze slowly fell onto Yiqing Luo. That gaze was bone-chilling. It was impossible to tell what he was feeling. The surroundings were in complete silence. Yiqing Luo and the God's Guardian Squad's eyes met for a moment. She realized that the God's Guardian Squad's target was her. Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, she felt a little flustered. TXT 2016 website, over 100,000, mobile phone can directly download TXT 2016. Chapter 47-49. The surrounding crowd's breathing started to congeal. Pairs of different expressions looked at the strange scene in front of them. Why did all of them run over to look for Yiqing Luo? Hell Palace was. Today, the God Realm's God Guardian Squad actually came to look for Yiqing Luo? Was it a good thing? Or a bad thing? Everyone's hearts were complicated as they held their breaths and stared at the God Guardian Squad, waiting for them to state their intention. Until the God Guardian Squad walked towards Yiqing Luo in an orderly manner. Their breathing seemed to have stopped. Silence for a moment. The young lady dressed in red slowly curled her pink lips as her long and narrow eyes curved as she spoke in a tranquil voice. Everyone, what's the matter? There wasn't much emotion in the young lady's voice. Totally not, because the other party was from the God Realm's God Guardian Squad, so she didn't fawn or fear them. As though she was facing ordinary people. Extremely calm and indifferent. The God Guardian Squad's captain could tell the calmness in the young lady's tone. There wasn't any trace of fear or panic on the young lady's alluring face. A meaningful look gradually appeared in his sharp eyes. You, Yiqing Luo. When the God Guardian Squad's captain opened his mouth, it brought along endless pressure. It made the entire banquet seem to be shrouded by 1,000 catty huge rock. Everyone instantly felt stuffy. The brothers in the World Group all turned pale as they sat on their seats, unable to straighten their backs. This was the prestige of a strong practitioner. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past everyone in the World Group. Her long and narrow eyes overflowed with a chilly intent. She tapped her fair fingers lightly on the table. A "pa" sound was heard. It broke the strange silence. The young lady slowly stood up. Her posture was languid and relaxed. Her blazing red robe was like a dazzling flame. Her cold and charming eyes stared straight at the 10 people in front of her. She enunciated each word coldly. Since all of you are from the god realm and have such status, why do you have to deliberately show off your strength in such a small place like the Earth domain? The young lady's actions and the words she said were already considered as audacious. It made the surrounding crowd couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Wasn't Imperial Madam too daring? The God Guardian squad actually dared to slam the table and berate them. Wasn't she afraid that the God Guardian squad would slap her to death? No matter how powerful the Imperial Madam was. If he encountered someone from the divine world, wouldn't he still have to obediently admit defeat? The Heaven Realm's people who had been berated by Yi Qing Luo earlier couldn't help but laugh out loud. You really think you're somebody? She was arrogant in front of us because we owed her a favor and didn't want to bother with a woman like her. But, that's the God World's God Guardian Squad. The God Guardian Squad's captain apparently didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to be so daring. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's gaze, it was filled with different emotions. Just as those people from Heaven Realm were prepared to see Yi Qing Luo become a joke, to see how the people from God Realm would trample on Yi Qing Luo. The 10 members of the Divine Guardian Squad actually withdrew their auras. Following that, he looked at Yi Qing Luo expressionlessly and said word by word, "There's a letter for you here." The captain of the Divine Guardian Squad waved his hand. A letter landed in front of Yi Qing Luo. The golden envelope floated in the air. The girl slowly reached out and caught the envelope. The 10 men from the Divine Guardian Squad stood silently by the side, waiting for Yi Qing Luo to read the letter. As the 10 men from the Divine Guardian Squad withdrew their auras, everyone's pale faces gradually turned for the better. The Heaven Realm's people who sneered suddenly turned red. They looked at the Divine Guardian Squad in disbelief. Chapter 4750. He was slapped in the face again and again. Those people from the Heaven Realm were all dumbfounded. It was one thing for Hell Palace to express their goodwill towards Yi Qing Luo. Why was it that the high and mighty God Realm's God Guardian Squad didn't get angry at Yi Qing Luo's provocation? Instead they obeyed her words. This is no longer in line with the noble and elegant persona of the God Realm. But he had to admit it. When Yi Qing Luo stood up and faced those 10 awe-inspiring and dignified God Guard Squad. Not the slightest bit inferior, nor was the slightest bit of light suppressed, still shining brightly, comparable to the stars. Automatically refreshes at 6 a.m. 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 Woman from the witchcraft family's expression changed slightly, but her tone was still rather gentle. Young Miss Miao, if your friend has any conflicts with the witchcraft family, the witchcraft family will take responsibility. She paused and continued, but right now, these 2 people are people who were expelled from the witchcraft family, and now they are related to the culprit behind the war between the 2 worlds, so, no. Miao Xianxian shook her head persistently. Everything, wait for Sister Qing Luo to come back and tell her yourself. Witchcraft family. An unfriendly voice came from behind Miao Xianxian. A woman in a light blue dress gently placed her slender hand on Miao Xuanxuan's shoulder and pulled both Miao Xianxian and Wu Che behind her. The woman looked gentle and harmless. However, her bright eyes were domineering and unreasonable. Does the witchcraft aristocratic family think that this matter can be resolved so easily? Miao Xianxian glanced at the woman beside her. She knew that this woman was called Yan Xiaoyi. He was a member of Sister Qing Luo's mercenary group and had a good relationship with her. Even if they hadn't interacted much in the past. Perhaps they knew each other from their previous lives. Miao Xianxian was not disgusted by the intimacy of a woman. The witchcraft aristocratic family frowned slightly. Miss, what do you mean? Yan Xiaoyi scoffed lightly. This grandmother and granddaughter pair, they have done so many atrocious things with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. If you take them away just like that, how are you going to explain to those profound practitioners who died because of them? The woman's voice was clearly not loud. His tone was full of questions. His aura was very oppressive. Also, Yan Xiaoyi's gaze darkened slightly. His eyes seemed to be covered with a thick layer of coldness. During the battle between the heaven and earth world this time, Elder Wu had used the forbidden witchcraft goo to refine the witchcraft goo worms, injuring many cultivators and our brothers in the world group. When the regiment commander was so young, he was poisoned with the heart-devouring goo. He had become a puppet of the Palace of Darkness, standing on the opposite side of them. And Zi Qing. Just now, Zi Qing nearly injured the world group's brothers. All of this was because of Elder Wu. What qualifications did the people of the witchcraft family have to snatch people from their hands? When Yan Xiaoyi looked up again, the corners of her mouth curled into a mocking sneer. So, since the people from the Wu Gu family have acknowledged the identity of Elder Wu and Wu Gu, then don't you intend to clean up the mess they created? Not only the world group. There were also quite a number of witchcraft Gu that had already scurried towards the cities in the Earth domain. Apart from the Miao Gu aristocratic family, only the witchcraft aristocratic family could help. End of this chapter. Viewing the starting lineup. Zoe Shin CHAPTR section. Please arrive. Tang Ku Agent, mobile address. Chapter 4751. From the attitude of the Divine Guardian Squad. There shouldn't be any ulterior motive for Yi Qing Luo to go to the God realm. There would definitely be benefits if she went to the heaven realm. But the direction of the invitation. Yi Qing Luo's face was solemn as she shook her head, not going. The captain of the Divine Guardian Squad had not expected that someone would reject the invitation of the acting God Emperor. To the people from the lower realm. It was a great honor. Many people had exhausted their blood, sweat, and tears, but were not even qualified to go to the God realm to take a look. This young lady was personally invited by the acting God Emperor. Instead, she was rejected. This was probably the first time since ancient times. The captain of the Divine Guardian Squad was stunned for a moment before he regained his senses and spoke in a cold voice. Yi Qing Luo, this letter is a sign of respect from the acting God Emperor. I am not asking for your approval but just informing you. The captain's voice had obviously raised by a lot. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly as she squinted her long and narrow eyes, looking at him with a smile yet not a smile. Her fair hands gently pushed the crowd in front of her aside. She slowly walked out from between the seats. That fiery red dress was like a blooming rose. Bright and moving, unparalleled. It further accentuated the young girl's devastatingly beautiful face and added a bit of soul-stirring charm. The young lady crossed her arms in front of her chest as she slightly raised her head, revealing her beautiful and slender neck. She gave a smile which didn't look like a smile. Are you threatening me? No, I'm just telling the truth. The captain's voice was cold. If you don't obey, we can only offend you. The Divine Guardian Squad from the God realm. Even if it was just a few simple sentences. There was a suffocating sense of oppression in them. Yi Qing Luo raised her slender brows as her long and narrow eyes revealed a hint of ridicule. Indeed simple and crude. Don't tell me the God realm uses this kind of method? The young lady's tone was filled with ridicule. The captain's expression didn't change. In the God realm, ability is the right to speak. If you have the ability, you can choose to resist. The meaning of his words. If they were to take action, they would absolutely not show any mercy. Anyway, she could resist however she wanted. Their aim was to complete the mission. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was fixed on the Divine Guardian Squad for a long time. Suddenly, he chuckled. In an instant, all the colors in the surroundings paled in comparison. Resist? There are 10 of you. If I were to resist, wouldn't I be asking for trouble? Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly as she put down her hands that were wrapped around his waist. Even if she resisted, she could resist. But there were so many people present. It would be easy to implicate them. Especially the brothers of the world group. I'll go with you to the God world. As soon as the girl's voice fell, the world group cried out in shock. Qing Luo? Madam Qing Luo? I don't even know why I invited you. Why are you going? What if God realm is also collaborating with Secluded Palace, and intentionally baited you? Yan Xiaoyi pulled Yi Qing Luo's arm. You're not allowed to go. A mere tenue palace is nothing in the eyes of the acting god emperor. The captain of the god guardian squad glanced at Yan Xiaoyi and said expressionlessly, "We cannot judge the thoughts of the acting god emperor. In any case, I can't go." Yan Xiaoyi stared at the guard captain as she directly stretched out her hands and hugged Yi Qing Luo. "Let's wait for the overlord to come back first, let's not go anywhere now." Looking at the young lady's worried eyes, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned gentler. She patted lightly on Yan Xiaoyi's hand which was hugging her. "If the acting god emperor wants to do anything to me, it's merely a matter of moving his fingers. There's no need to take such a big detour. Latest update, no pop-up window, please." Chapter 4752. In front of the people of the heaven and earth realms, he invited the divine guardian squad of the immortal realm to welcome him personally. No matter what, it was impossible for them to deliberately target her. What was the reason? He had to make a trip there to find out. Yi Qing Luo was indeed not worried that the god realm was playing some tricks in the dark. The divine world was the divine world. It was precisely because the god world was mysterious and powerful that people yearned for it. It could be said, if these 10 members of the divine guardian squad were to make a move, they could completely defeat the representatives of all the factions from the heaven and earth realms. The immortal world was just that powerful. Even with her current strength, he used his full strength. He was afraid that he would only be able to fight the divine guardian squad captain to a draw. One could only imagine just how powerful was the god realm. So, if he wanted to deal with a young girl from the lower realm like her, there was no need to beat around the bush. Yi Qing Luo looked at the guard captain. "Before this, can I have some private time to say goodbye to my brothers?" After a moment of silence, the captain of the divine guardian squad nodded expressionlessly. "Okay. Thank you." Yi Qing Luo pulled Yan Xiaoyi's hand and returned to the world group's position. She didn't say much. He only reminded them to pay attention to the situation of the Palace of Darkness and the witchcraft family. He could not let Wu Che off so easily. At the very least, he wanted the witchcraft aristocratic family to hand over the method to cure Long Yunzhan's poison, as well as the method to help Tong Ziqing recover. It was extremely fast. Gu Jingyu did not notice at all. He was forced to raise his head. The 5 slender white fingers on his neck emitted a piercing cold aura. The young girl's hand gradually tightened. She did not have the slightest intention of being soft-hearted. Gu Jingyu's expression changed. "This body belongs to Gu Jingyu. If you kill me, Gu Jingyu won't live either." Yi Qing Luo gave a cold laugh as her pink lips twitched. "When did I say that I wanted to kill you?" Gu Jingyu stiffened. The young lady chuckled and continued, "I'm sure that the barbaric blood king will be able to find the brook spring through you, and from there, find the real you. After hiding behind the scenes for so long, it's time to come out and bask in the sun." The force on the neck of Gu Jingyu made his handsome face scrunch up in pain. The young girl's words shocked him. Gu Jingyu's eyebrows moved slightly. Mysterious yin qi rippled in his dark eyes. He seemed to have thought of something, and his expression became calm once more. An expression that the girl was familiar with suddenly appeared on his handsome face. Gentle like the wind, elegant and modest. When he opened his mouth, it was a familiar and gentle voice, "Yi Qing Luo." That familiar tone, and that gentle expression. In front of Yi Qing Luo's eyes, in a trance, seemed to have seen the scene not too long ago, when she was poisoned by the mysterious yin fragrance due to the effects of the dragon cloud witchcraft goo. The man who was as gentle as the wind had always been by her side taking care of her. For a moment, he was dazed. It was at this moment. The corners of Gu Jingyu's mouth curled into a cold arc. By the time Yi Qing Luo reacted, a wisp of thick black evil qi sprang out from Gu Jingyu's body. Immediately, Gu Jingyu's body became heavy as he fell onto Yi Qing Luo's body. The evil qi quickly disappeared into the forest. Chapter 4753. The crowd stared blankly at Yi Qing Luo and the God Guardian squad disappearing into the horizon. Suddenly, they heard an anxious voice. "Where's Qing Luo?" A tall figure walked over in quick steps. That cold face bore a tinge of anxiety and worry. His gaze looked around, searching for Yi Qing Luo's figure. "Sir Bone Sovereign." The World Group's brothers immediately called out when they heard the person's voice. Blood Bone Savage King's gaze congealed as his face turned slightly pale. This god had just felt energy from God Realm. What's going on? Where's Qing Luo? Yan Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin exchanged glances as she explained what had happened earlier in a concise and comprehensive manner. The more Blood Bone Savage King heard, the colder his expression became. A pair of cold eyes slowly squinted. It was filled with an eerie chill. When he heard that Yi Qing Luo and the God Guardian squad had left, Blood Bone Savage King's fist suddenly clenched tightly. This god is going to God Realm to look for her. Bone Sovereign. You're going to God Realm? The crowd went into a slight blank when they heard that. God Realm wasn't a place where one could just go. If the Overlord returns, tell him about today's matter and ask him to rush over to God Realm immediately. Blood Bone Savage King's eyes sunk. This god is worried. God Realm is in danger. It was a memory from the God world. Blood Bone Savage King still couldn't understand who was the mastermind behind all this. Feng Gu was the emperor of God Emperors. But someone had set his eyes on Feng Gu and attempted to snatch Feng Ji's daughter, Qing Luo. If Feng Gu hadn't found out the reason for that incident. Once Yi Qing Luo reached God Realm, that face which was 80% similar to Feng Gu, it would definitely attract the attention of the person in the dark. Thinking of this, Blood Bone Savage King's expression turned colder and colder. Feng Gu had handed Qing Luo over to him because she trusted him. He must protect Feng Ji's daughter on her behalf. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't know how she came to God Realm. She only knew that when she stood beside the God Guardian squad's leader and stepped into that huge hole which seemed as though it was torn in midair. A dazzling light made her eyes turn black. Following that, she lost consciousness. When she opened her eyes, he was already lying on a soft bed. The surroundings were suffused with a calming incense. She sat up abruptly. He moved his body but did not feel any discomfort. His profound strength and spirit power were not affected much either. However, she noticed that there was an ice-cold jade pendant hanging around her neck. She raised her hand to remove the jade pendant. Old Man Sung's voice resounded in her mind. "Girl, don't touch the jade pendant. That jade pendant is used to protect you." "Protect me? What the hell? This is the God world." The profound jade heart in your body is especially sensitive to the spiritual energy of the God world. If you're unable to control the profound heart jade, it's very possible that the profound heart jade will desperately absorb the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she was slightly stunned. In other words, if she could not control the divine phoenix profound heart jade properly, she will explode and die from absorbing too much spiritual energy. This is also the reason why you fainted the moment you entered God Realm. Old Man Sung explained, because your body cannot take such a burden. He continued, this jade pendant can suppress the agitation of your profound heart jade. It should be the acting God Emperor who realized this and specially prepared it for you. Yi Qing Luo touched the jade pendant. She immediately got up from the bed and surveyed the surroundings. Chapter 47-54. What entered his eyes was a tasteful and elegantly decorated room. Furthermore, with just a glance, one could tell that the items on display were priceless. God Realm was indeed God Realm. Even the guest's room was so well decorated. She walked out of the room. She discovered that there was no one guarding the door. The surroundings were silent. There was no one in sight. But after pushing the door open, the scenery in front of her made her eyes lit up. This was simply comparable to the Century Garden. Immortal aura curled up, verdant green grass, clusters of flowers. Yi Qing Luo was stunned by the beautiful scenery in front of her. The way the god realm treated their guests was indeed very good. She walked slowly towards the cluster of flowers in front of her. Her good mood didn't last long. Under the sky full of beautiful scenery, Yi Qing Luo faintly heard some noisy noises not far away. Was there anyone? She didn't see anyone when she woke up. Now she heard some voices. Yi Qing Luo quickly walked towards the direction of the sound. In an exquisite pavilion amidst the cluster of flowers, 6 women seemed to be arguing about something. The women were young and beautiful, thin and plump, there were all kinds of types. Under the colorful flowers, the women were even more alluring. But it would be better if they could restrain the jealous expression on their faces. Yi Qing Luo hadn't gotten close. The women there had already sensed someone's presence. Who's there? Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo's reaction, those women in the pavilion not far away had already arrived in front of her in a blink of an eye. Their speed was so fast. Even Yi Qing Luo, who usually won with speed, couldn't help but be speechless. Who's there? Who dares to eavesdrop on us in the dark? The woman's voice was pleasant to the ear. As their gazes fell onto the young lady's face, a trace of shock flashed past their faces. The woman in front of them had exquisite features, as if it was meticulously sculpted. Her beauty was unparalleled and unparalleled. Especially that pair of long and narrow eyes, watery and lively. The arc at the corner of her eyes was so charming. Coupled with a blazing red dress, it made her look even more noble and beautiful. Just one look and one couldn't take their eyes off her. The women's hearts trembled, and a wary and uneasy expression appeared on their faces. Who are you? Suddenly, he was surrounded by 6 beauties. He even had a vigilant look on his face. Yi Qing Luo deliberated for a moment. May I ask, what is this place? After hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, the expressions on their faces changed unpredictably. The gaze he shot at Yi Qing Luo was filled with jealousy. Yi Qing Luo was dumbfounded. What did she do wrong? The 2 women exchanged glances. Instead of quarreling with each other, he put on an arrogant expression and sized up the young girl. He pretended to not care and said, "Little girl, no matter where you come from, now that you've entered our 100-flower garden, you have to follow the rules here." A 100-flower garden? Yi Qing Luo was shocked. Did she come to the God Realm's female branch? What's going on? She had been sold to a brothel by the Divine Guardian Squad? You're a newbie. No matter what, you have to respect the seniors, in other words, us older sisters as your leader. You can't monopolize your husband, do you understand? The women were still arrogantly lecturing him. The more Yi Qing Luo heard, the stranger she felt. Why didn't she understand what these women were saying? They were obviously human words. Why did it sound so strange when she heard it? Yi Qing Luo was still in a daze. The few women saw that she didn't speak for a long time. Chapter 4755. Emin, right. Couldn't understand. She really couldn't understand. Are you looking down on us? Another lady's expression sunk as her pretty face was filled with anger. Don't think that just because our husband brought you here, you are the most pampered by our husband. Which one of them who came to the 100-flower gardens back then wasn't their husband's beloved one when they first came? But in the end, didn't they all end up like us? You won't be complacent for long. The few ladies were blabbering non-stop. Noisy chatter. Which gave Yi Qing Luo a rough understanding of some information. These people should be the harem group of someone in the God realm. And this place of hers was the harem garden. She appeared here and was treated as a new sweetheart by this bunch of ladies. This misunderstanding was a little too big. The carefree and relaxed mood after she opened her eyes had turned into black lines at this moment. Wait a minute. Why did the God Guardian Squad arrange her to be in this harem garden? Could it be that the God Guardian Squad had offered her to someone in the God realm? Or could it be Actually, someone in the god realm coveted her devastatingly beautiful looks, so he found an excuse to abduct her to the god realm, to become one of the members of the harem garden. Yi Qing Luo was shocked by her own imagination. She coughed lightly as she looked at the few hostile beauties in front of her. That you seem to have misunderstood. But the few people in front of her seemed as though they couldn't hear her words. Their words were getting more and more unpleasant. It totally didn't sound like words that came out from a delicate beauty's mouth. Today, I must make you understand the rules of the 100-flower gardens. Suddenly, one of the cold and arrogant-looking ladies suddenly pounced towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was still in a daze. Suddenly, a swift and fierce palm wind came toward him. She was so shocked that she took a step back. A bam sound was heard. That palm hit empty air. The vibrating profound wave rippled in the air, giving off a crackling roar. What the hell? This time, he was serious. This cold and arrogant lady struck. The surrounding women all clapped and cheered. Sister Hongmei, that's how it should be. Teach this bitch a lesson. Let's see if she still dares to snatch our husband. You're taking advantage of your husband's doting on you to treat us elders with such disdain. You should be taught a lesson. The icily arrogant woman called Hongmei smirked coldly. The way she looked at Yi Qing Luo was obviously filled with disdain and arrogance. Yi Qing Luo felt that this group of harem groups were simply crazy. Could it be that all of them were fighting for his favor until they became mentally unstable? After she dodged that palm strike, Qing Cheng's expression froze slightly. She spoke again, I'm not that person's new sweetheart. No? Hongmei sneered. Little girl, don't be naive. The women who come here all think that they will be my husband's last. Yi Qing Luo. I really am not, I don't even know the husband that you are talking about. Shut up. You didn't kneel 3 times, kowtow 9 times, and offer tea to us older sisters. Do you think you can call us husband? Hongmei's eyes turned cold, and she became even angrier. Following that, another fierce attack came down. The profound wave was swift and fierce, like a hot knife through butter, with a strong murderous intent. This woman wanted to kill her? Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk. She had taken a few steps back and explained that she was a newcomer and didn't want to make enemies in the god realm. After all, the god realm was different from other places. But this bunch of women in front of her were overbearing. Chapter 47-56. She wanted to explain but didn't want to listen. She even started to fight over a disagreement. Motherf asterisk Ker. Did she really think she had no temper? Did she think she could do whatever she wanted just because she was from the god realm? Who was she, Yi Qing Luo, afraid of? Come on. Let's fight. Anyway, if she didn't fight, the other party wouldn't listen to her at all. Might as well beat the other party into submission. Then the other party would probably listen to her properly. The young lady's slender fingers suddenly lifted. A flirtatious cold arc swept out from her fingertips. The glower flame fan rotated one round from her fingertips and shot out a burst of profound light. She leaped up and the glower flame fan pressed towards Hongmei. The young lady's figure was swift and her action was very sudden. Hongmei didn't expect that this seemingly delicate young lady would be so unyielding and directly fight with her. But she was only stunned for a moment. Then she sneered, overestimate yourself. Her sleeves waved and the profound light was released. 2 profound waves violently collided. Powerful pressure instantly covered the entire 100-flower gardens. The exchange of blows between the two made Yi Qing Luo slightly stunned. The god realm was indeed the god realm. This lady named Hongmei wasn't weak. She was on a completely different level from the cultivators she met in the earth realm and heaven realm. Don't worry, this is just the beginning. Hongmei saw the young lady's dazed expression and grinned sinisterly. That exquisite and beautiful face floated with a ruthless smile. As Hongmei's voice fell, the profound waves around her surged even more wildly. A long sword appeared in her hand and fell straight towards Yiqing Luo's face. The surrounding ladies giggled when they saw this. This newcomer really overestimates herself, even daring to offend Sister Hong Mei. Sister Hong Mei is the most beloved lady of husband. Not only does husband support her, there is also the mother's family behind her. This newcomer doesn't know what's good for her. Sister Hong Mei, teach this newcomer a good lesson and let her know the rules of our 100-flower gardens. Those ladies who were watching the show smiled charmingly. Beautiful women set off the beautiful scenery. It should have been the most beautiful picture. However, he was contaminated by their arrogance and ugly expressions of schadenfreude. Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly as her long and narrow eyes overflowed with a chilly glint. Her gaze was fixed on Hong Mei. His fingertips moved. A bewitching red light blossomed on the devouring flame fan. All of a sudden, the flames on his body skyrocketed. She did not hesitate in the slightest, nor did she bother with those fancy things. One move after another, pressing down. Hong Mei had originally thought that victory was within her grasp, but she had the intention of teasing the young girl, so she did not use her full strength. But when his opponent's aura soared, she came to her senses and wanted to counterattack. But he was met with a pair of long and narrow eyes. Unbeknownst to her, the young girl had approached her face. He was stunned for a moment. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. Hong Mei's pupils constricted, and she struck out with a backhand palm in an attempt to resist. However, the young girl mercilessly stepped on her wrist. In the next instant, her body seemed to be suppressed by a powerful force, and she was unable to move at all. Hong Mei sprawled on the ground in disbelief. She couldn't believe it. In the blink of an eye, the person on the ground was her? How could this be possible? The surrounding ladies' laughter also stopped abruptly at this moment. One by one, they looked at Yiqing Luo in shock. The shock wasn't that Yiqing Luo had the ability to hurt Hong Mei. But the shock was that Yiqing Luo dared to make a move in the 100-flower gardens. Do you know who she is? Quickly let go of Sister Hong Mei. A lady berated sternly. Chapter 47-57. I don't care who she is. Yiqing Luo's eyes were chilly, her narrow eyes were filled with an eerie chill. Your attitude towards me determines my attitude towards all of you. So what if she wanted to say something? Even grabbing her hand, trying to kill her? It was a threat to her life. Even if the Heavenly Emperor came, she would still beat her up. Are you looking for death? A newcomer dares to be so overbearing? The women's expressions turned ugly as they pointed at Yiqing Luo and started scolding. If you don't let go of Sister Hong Mei, don't blame us for being impolite. It formed a sharp contrast with their alluring looks. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as she gave them a glance with a smile which didn't look like a smile. You make it sound as though you are very polite now. At the same time she looked at them. Yiqing Luo was also considering their abilities. This was after all the god realm. It was the realm where the rumored god cultivators resided. Even if she had the confidence to protect herself. But, if she could not create trouble. She preferred to use a harmonious method to settle things. She would try not to make a move if she could. She could tell. Hong Mei should be the leader of this group of women. Making use of Hong Mei's arrogance and contempt to settle Hong Mei in the shortest time possible. The other women would have misgivings because they were unable to guess her ability. Anyway, she had the jade pendant that the God Guard squad gave her. Even if those women's profound grades were above her, they were unable to see through her ability. Yiqing Luo's plan was indeed not wrong. The women's expressions were extremely ugly, but looking at Hong Mei who was being stepped on by the young lady, whether it was because they couldn't see through the young lady's ability or because they were worried about Hong Mei's life. They were indeed just threatening verbally. But no one dared to make a move. Hong Mei was also aware of this as she felt the foot stepping on her back increasing in strength as her face turned pale. If you don't let go of me, if my husband sees this, he will absolutely not let you off. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. Call that whatever husband of yours out. Who do you think you are, do you think that your husband is someone you can meet whenever you want to? Even though Hong Mei was in a sorry state, but the words she said were still very stubborn. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved as the smile on her lips deepened. Oh, then no one will be able to save you. She leaned forward slightly. Hong Mei only felt that the foot on her back was getting heavier and heavier. Then, something cold pressed against her skin. Out of the corner of her eyes, Hong Mei vaguely saw a sharp blade. Her delicate body suddenly tensed up. You dare? You can try and see if I dare to. Yi Qing Luo's voice was very indifferent. If you dare to kill me, the acting divine emperor will not let you off. Hong Mei heard the indifference in the young girl's tone and immediately panicked. The acting Lord God Emperor is my uncle. You dare to treat me like this. The acting Lord God Emperor will definitely kill you. Acting divine emperor? Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. This woman was actually the niece of the acting divine emperor? No wonder he was so arrogant. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards. That's easy, get the acting God Emperor to come and see me. The acting God Emperor ordered someone to bring her to the God realm. But he inexplicably left her in the 100-flower gardens. Could it be that he wanted her to be like this bunch of women, to become a member of some man's harem? Who do you think you are? Is the acting Lord God Emperor someone you can meet whenever you want to? Hong Mei's heart was slightly shocked as she was shocked that the young lady actually had such a big tone. Chapter 47-58. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly, between her picturesque eyebrows. There was a cold domineering aura. Really? Then do you think, if I kill you, will the acting God Emperor appear for you? You dare? Hong Mei bared her teeth in anger. That beautiful face was distorted. She could tell that the young lady's words were not fake. This young lady was too arrogant. But, what made Hong Mei's heart give birth to a feeling of horror was when she was being suppressed by the young lady, she was totally unable to struggle. As though her body was so stiff that she was unable to move. Hong Mei's heart sank, as her pupils suddenly widened. What did you do to me? She actually reacted to the abnormality in her body? This young lady, when did she do something? Yi Qing Luo chuckled softly, her peerlessly beautiful face. This smile seemed to make the surrounding flowers lose their color, bright and beautiful. Don't worry, it's just to make you more obedient, of course. If you're not obedient. Her eyes congealed slightly, as her smile deepened a few degrees coldness. Then I'm sorry, you can only go and die. Hong Mei's body suddenly tensed up, the expression on her face was distorted and sinister. And at this moment, not far away, suddenly two men's voices were heard. Why did you put her in the 100-flower garden for? We are all women, what are you afraid of? There are so many women in your garden, if you put her in that place, won't she be swallowed alive? What are you afraid of? The women in my 100-flower garden are all gentle like water. Naturally they will take good care of her. What kind of women in your garden, don't you have any idea? I just brought her to God realm, and was hurriedly called away by you, so I can only casually put her in the 100-flower garden. Their voices were getting closer and closer. Very quickly, they saw two tall figures walking slowly in the midst of the flowers. There was also a voice, clearly heard, that young lady, entering this garden, is too pitiful. What if she runs out and bumps into your bunch of women? She will probably be swallowed until nothing is left. The word was forcibly choked in his throat. That man was dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe. The exquisite embroidery showed his nobility. The astonishment on the young man's face was obvious. He stared unblinkingly at the scene in front of him, unable to believe his eyes. Behind the man, another figure dressed in a flashy pink robe also walked over. You. Husband. The group of beautiful women swarmed towards that figure. Each and every one of their voices were soft and tender. The women threw themselves into the man's embrace and sobbed, Husband, you've come to seek justice for us. Don't cry, don't cry. When you cry, your husband's heart is broken. The man hugged the surrounding women and comforted them gently. Yiqing Luo, where the hell did this peacock come from? This was the first time she had seen a man wearing pink. Furthermore, it was the pinkish pink color. It was extremely coquettish. However, the man's androgynous face, coupled with the coquettish powder, did not look too feminine at all. Such a flirtatious peacock. No wonder he had such a harem. However, this man was really fickle. He clearly saw Hong Mei being trampled under his feet. Yet he could still use a gentle voice to appease the other women. And hugged them left and right, as if he could not see Hong Mei at all. Evaluation, scumbag. Chapter 47-59. Took in a harem with 3,000 beauties. He was indeed a scumbag. Yiqing Luo sized up the two men who suddenly appeared in front of her. They were also sizing up Yiqing Luo. The rosy pink man's gaze paused on Yiqing Luo's face for several breaths before his eyes lit up. Beauty. He speedily pushed the few people in his arms to one side as he gave a self-admitted flirtatious smile. You're Yiqing Luo. That gaze made Yiqing Luo had an impulse to beat someone up. She frowned. Who are you? What are you pretending to be silly for? Hong Mei, who was being stepped on, suddenly opened her mouth. That's our husband. Her tone revealed a sliver of complacency. Husband is here, you're dead meat. Saying that, she raised her head and looked at the man not too far away. Husband, save me. This slut wants to kill me. Finally, that rosy pink man shifted his gaze downwards, onto Hong Mei. His exquisite brows creased unabashedly. What are you doing? The rosy pink man's face sunk slightly. When Hong Mei saw that, she immediately cried even more grievously. Husband, this new slut, she poisoned me and even attempted to kill me. The rosy pink man, that pair of flirtatious eyes, looked towards Yiqing Luo. The women by the side chimed in. Husband, you don't know how arrogant this newcomer is. Not only did she not put us, this group of sisters, in her eyes, Sister Hong Mei only wanted to teach her the rules, but she. The women were all talking at once, pushing all the problems to Yiqing Luo. Hong Mei's eyes were misty with tears, as she cried quietly in grievance. She was very clear. Her husband couldn't stand a woman's tears. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about those women, no matter how they splashed dirty water on her, she couldn't be bothered to explain. She stared at the rosy pink man and frowned. You're the husband they're talking about. If little beauty wants to call me husband, I won't mind. The rosy pink man smiled as he opened his mouth. There was no trace of anger towards Yiqing Luo because of those women's words. The man next to him elbowed the flirtatious man in pink and glared at him with a warning look. What did you bring me to this place for? Yiqing Luo went straight to the point. The man in the pink robe was full of smiles. Beautiful scenery with beautiful women. However, compared to the beautiful scenery of the 100-flower gardens, this little beauty is even more beautiful. Yiqing Luo's foot, which was stepping on Hong Mei's back, suddenly exerted force. Hong Mei screamed in pain. The girl's eyes were clear and cold. Don't talk nonsense. Call the captain of the Divine Guardian Squad over. He had brought her to the God realm, but had inexplicably thrown her here. Another two baffling people had arrived. What the hell is this place? Where was the noble and unattainable image of the God realm? Disillusioned, okay? The flirtatious pink-colored man's gaze towards Yiqing Luo was filled with overflowing interest. The God's Guardian Squad has handed you over to me, so if you have any matters, just look for me. Yiqing Luo. Could she make a move and beat this peacock into submission first? The man dressed in bamboo on the side coughed lightly. Miss Yi, we don't have any ill intentions. Let go of Hong Mei first. Not letting go. She was afraid that if she let go of this foot, the next one would land on that flirtatious peacock. The man dressed in bamboo looked slightly more serious. Actually, we don't have any ill intentions. He continued, I'm the acting God Emperor's last disciple, Feng Changqing. This is my friend, and also one of the 3 kings in the God realm, Ji Wuhua, Flower King. Chapter 4760. A coquettish peacock was indeed a coquettish peacock. Even his name was so coquettish. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as her gaze fell onto Ji Wuhua. You said to look for you? Being stared at by that pair of seductive eyes of the beauty. Ji Wuhua's bewitching eyes were filled with splendor. That's right, it's me. Beauty, please look at me and tell me your request. He didn't wait for Yi Qing Luo to open her mouth. The next sentence was blurted out. Even if you want the position of my official wife, and want me to disperse the flowers for you, I'm also willing. His eyes were burning, and his expression was as deep as the ocean. But there wasn't a single bit of sincerity in that tone. Apparently, this kind of words were often hung on his lips. But those few bewitching little flowers behind were struck by Ji Wuhua's words. Each of them called out, "Husband," in a tender manner as they shed tears of grievance. Whereas Hong Mei, who was stepped on the ground, had an incredulous expression in her eyes. She was stepped on by this slut, in such a wretched state. Her beloved husband didn't care about her at all, and was even infatuated with this slut. She was like a fool. Scram. Yi Qing Luo stared coldly at Ji Wuhua's androgynous face as she raised her hand. If you don't leave, I'll smash your dog head. Ji Wuhua was stunned on the spot. It was as if there had never been a woman who could show such a look of disgust under his affectionate confession. Moreover, the expression on her face didn't seem to be playing hard to get, or was it a joke? But really, if he didn't retreat further, she would really beat him up. This knowledge caused a trace of cold light to flash in the depths of Ji Wuhua's devilish eyes. The few women behind him were also astonished. There was actually someone who dared to be fierce to their husband. That slut, was she looking for death? But that slut was so fierce. Their husband definitely wouldn't like that slut. But their husband didn't have any intention of getting angry. Instead, he cooperated and shifted his feet backwards, pulling the distance between him and Yi Qing Luo. Bring me to see the acting god emperor. Yi Qing Luo looked at him as she said every single word clearly. It's not convenient for the acting divine emperor to meet guests now, Ji Wuhua replied. When the acting divine emperor summons you, I'll take you there. Oh. Yi Qing Luo replied indifferently. Ji Wuhua was still puzzled. Why was this girl so cooperative? The young lady's voice sounded again. Then send me back to the Earth realm. When the acting god emperor is free, come to the Earth realm to see me. Was he trying to take her down a notch? He had brought her all the way to the god realm. Now he stood her up again. Did he think that he was great just because he was the acting divine emperor? She was the daughter of the former divine emperor. 10,000 years ago, she could be considered as the heir to the throne of the divine emperor. Even the acting god emperor had to address her as great-grandmother when he saw her now. See or not? Who didn't know how to put on airs? The girl's words once again stunned the people in the garden. Ji Wuhua and Feng Zhangqing had not expected that this young girl, who looked a little fierce, would say such bold words. Let the acting god emperor meet her personally in the Earth realm? Although the acting god emperor hadn't officially inherited the divine emperor's throne, but in the hearts of the people in the god realm, the acting god emperor had long been the real god emperor. Usually, even if the acting god emperor asked them to wait for a day and a night, they would still wait quietly on the spot. Wasn't this young lady's tone too arrogant? Chapter 4761. As for the other beautiful ladies, as they stared at Yi Qing Luo, their eyes were filled with astonishment as they stood rooted to the ground. Did they hear it wrongly? This young lady was not their husband's new sweetheart, but a distinguished guest whom the acting god emperor wanted to meet? Moreover, this young lady's arrogance didn't even seem to be afraid of the acting god emperor. That was a kind of arrogance that emanated from her bones, a natural arrogance that didn't feel exaggerated at all. But what shocked them even more was, this young lady came from the Earth realm to the god realm. Even the heaven realm was like an ant that could be pinched to death with a flick of a finger. Not to mention the realm below the heaven realm. Even if they were a group of chess pieces that had been trained since young to please men and seek benefits for the family, any one of them would be able to fight against 100 in the lower realms. It was imaginable. The gap between the god realm and the lower realm. But this young lady came from the earth realm, that lowly realm, to the god realm. A young lady from the earth realm had stepped on their red plum boss. Someone from the earth realm? Did they hear it wrongly, or did the young lady say it wrongly? Unbelievable. Totally unbelievable. But the next moment, Feng Zhangqing's words had confirmed the young lady's identity. Miss Yi, the passage between the earth realm and the god realm can't be opened at will, and the distance between the two realms is very far. If the acting god emperor is done with his work and wants to see you, he will have to go to the earth realm to invite you. Going back and forth will delay your time, don't you think so? Yi Qing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest, her eyes were lazy and indifferent. I'm also very busy, all right? Only the acting god emperor is busy and I'm not allowed to be busy. Miss Yi, the acting god emperor doesn't mean to make things difficult for you. Feng Zhangqing's thin lips were tightly pursed as his handsome face revealed traces of helplessness. Don't beat around the bush. Ji Wuhua pushed Feng Zhangqing away and smiled like a peacock. Beauty, you really can't blame the acting god emperor. You can only blame yourself. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and looked at Ji Wuhua with an expression that said, continue to make up stories, I'll listen quietly to your story. Ji Wuhua made an oath. Yesterday, the acting divine emperor postponed all matters and waited for you to discuss the war between the heaven and earth realm. However, we neglected the fact that you have just entered the divine world, and you are not used to the spiritual energy of the divine world, causing you to lose consciousness. The acting divine emperor couldn't bear to wake you up, so he let you rest for a day. So, this was her fault? Seeing that the girl's expression was still indifferent, Ji Wuhua said sincerely, everything I said is true. Yi Qing Luo squinted at his raised 3 fingers. Your god realm also plays this kind of oath trick? Wasn't the oath meant for God to see? Weren't the people of the god realm gods? Ji Wuhua said matter-of-factly, because you women love this kind of trick the most. Yi Qing Luo. Sorry, I don't like it. However, Ji Wuhua's explanation was indeed reasonable. It was a fact that she had slept all day. How many days do I have to stay in the god realm? She asked. Ji Wuhua glanced at Feng Changqing and stopped him from speaking. Then he looked at Yi Qing Luo smilingly. Not much, about 10 days to half a month. Yi Qing Luo. Forget it, you'd better send me back to the earth realm. 10 days to half a month. Wait till she returned to the earth realm. The daylilies were already cold. There were still a lot of matters in the earth realm waiting for her to settle. Chapter 4762. Feng Zhangqing pressed his hand on Ji Wuhua's shoulder and pulled him behind him. Don't listen to his nonsense. When the acting divine emperor is done with his business, he will see you. It will take at least a few hours, and at most a day or 2. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Then I shall reluctantly agree to it. She could still accept this time. At most, he would just treat it as a day trip to the god realm. In any case, he was someone who had been to the god realm. She could brag about this for years in the lower realm. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept past those ladies who were in a daze and suddenly thought of something. But I have a condition. Speak. Feng Zhangqing nodded. Yi Qing Luo took a look at Ji Wuhua and then looked at the person under her feet. I don't live in 100 flower gardens. What's wrong with this place? Ji Wuhua was unhappy. This is my proudest design. The environment is good and the scenery is beautiful. Why don't you stay here? Yi Qing Luo spat out a few words in a lukewarm manner, not good in any way. Feng Zhangqing coughed lightly and said, Miss Yi, forgive me for not being able to agree to this condition. Don't tell me the god realm only has one place to entertain foreign guests. Yi Qing Luo frowned and raised her delicate chin. Feng Zhangqing sighed softly. the fact that Miss Yi has come to the God world is a secret to the outside world. If others in the God world find out that a person from a lower world has come to the God world, I'm afraid those stubborn old fogies of the God world who think themselves to be virtuous and virtuous will not let this matter rest. Yi Qing Luo. So she was a stowaway? Do I have to hide in the God realm and wait for the acting God Emperor to summon me? Wasn't this a little too aggrieved? In the entire God realm, Wuhua's territory is the safest. Otherwise, Wuhua wouldn't have sent you here in the first place. Feng Zhangqing continued to explain, but at most one day, Miss Yi, please bear with it for the time being. Yi Qing Luo. I can't take it anymore. This place was the flower peacock's harem garden. Who knew how many imperial concubines were in this garden? If she stays here any longer, every 2 to 4 hours, he would have to fight with his harem team. She was not in the mood to explain again and again that there was no relationship between her and Ji Wuhua. He was too lazy to explain. Most importantly, putting her together with this peacock to create a scandal? That would lower his status, alright? She was ugly. But, the very last. Yi Qing Luo still compromised. Because Ji Wuhua was too annoying. It was so annoying that she couldn't help but want to strangle this peacock to death. Yi Qing Luo directly stuffed Hong Mei into Ji Wuhua's arms, gagging his mouth. Then, he turned around and left. Beauty, what are you? Before the dumbfounded Ji Wuhua could finish his words, Yi Qing Luo had already shut her room's door with a pa sound. All over his body, he sent out a message: my mood is exploding, don't bother me. Ji Wuhua was blocked outside the door. He stared blankly at Feng Changqing and said, Changqing, have I become uglier? Isn't it tempting enough? As he spoke, he touched his face full of worry. Feng Zhangqing didn't even bother to look at him. It's done. Let's go. This was the first time Ji Wuhua had suffered a setback. He cried dejectedly, I don't believe that my face has lost its limits. I'm a man who relies on his face to make a living. Ji Wuhua turned around abruptly, looking at those few charming and enchanting imperial concubines. The corner of his mouth immediately revealed an incomparably demonic smile. Ladies, did you miss me? Chapter 4763. That smile caused the originally frightened beauties to blush, and their mouths began to emit sweet moans. One by one, they flew toward Ji Wuhua. Husband, we missed you so much. You haven't come to see us for a long time. Husband, the sisters have been waiting for you. Do you want to stay in the 100 Garden today? Husband, several charming women swarmed toward Ji Wuhua. No one paid any attention to Hong Mei, who was lying on the ground with a face full of resentment. All of them painstakingly moved closer to Ji Wuhua. He wanted to make Ji Wuhua stay. Ji Wuhua contentedly regained his pride as a peacock in front of this group of women. He waved his hand and said, Changqing and I still have some matters to attend to. You guys stay in the 100-flower garden. He paused for a moment before continuing, as for Miss Yi just now, if you don't have any urgent matters, don't go to the east courtyard to disturb her. Yes. The women were somewhat reluctant, but they did not dare to force Ji Wuhua to stay, so they obediently lowered their eyes and responded. Feng Zhangqing glanced at Hong Mei on the ground and said, send Miss Hong Mei back to her courtyard and find someone to give her a good look. The women, yes. The 100-flower garden fell into silence again. The news that a woman, who was not Ji Wuhua's new lover, had come to the 100 Garden and moved into the 100 Garden had spread like wildfire. Especially when they heard that the new girl had beaten up their boss, Hong Mei, until he was bedridden. He was very curious about the new girl. But due to Ji Wuhua's orders, no one dared to approach the east courtyard to get close to the new girl. They could only discuss and guess the other party's identity. Whereas at this moment, Yi Qing Luo, who was being discussed by everyone, was cooped up in her room, feeling extremely bored. Judging from Feng Changqing's words just now, he probably wouldn't give her the chance to go out for a stroll. After all, she was a stowaway. If someone from the other god realms were to find out, that would be troublesome. It was rare for him to come to the immortal world. He would be trapped in the god realm for a few more hours. He could only stay in this 100-flower garden. Yi Qing Luo expressed her innermost feelings. There was nothing to do. Yi Qing Luo might as well regulate the profound energy within her body. He couldn't possibly come here for nothing and spend his days in a daze, right? This was the god realm. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the divine world was abundant and pure. It was a good place for cultivation. Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes and entered a meditative state. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth within the 100-flower garden began to gather in her direction. He meditated for about 2 hours. Yi Qing Luo suddenly felt a gust of extremely strong spiritual qi, coming from a certain direction, swiftly sweeping over. Yi Qing Luo was reminded by Old Man's song. He reacted in time. He retracted his aura. When she opened her eyes, she saw that her room was filled with a large amount of pure and powerful spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, it was too powerful. If he absorbed it by force, her body might not be able to withstand such a load. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased slightly as she felt that something was strange. Why was there suddenly so much spiritual energy? Furthermore, it had suddenly appeared. That heaven and earth qi is somewhat familiar. Old Man Song's puzzled voice rang out in Yi Qing Luo's mind. Familiar? I have a feeling that I have sensed this kind of aura somewhere before. Old Man Song couldn't recall the specific details. He could only vaguely feel that it was familiar. Yi Qing Luo slid down from the bed. Let's go over and take a look and you will know. This is the god realm, you must be careful in everything. Old Man Song reminded. Chapter 4764. Yi Qing Luo headed towards the direction where the heaven and earth spiritual qi was surging from. That aura was extremely dense. It seemed to fill the entire courtyard. Yi Qing Luo searched for a while. Only then did he confirm that the spiritual energy came from the bookshelf in her room. Based on experience. She fumbled on the bookshelf for a long time. Only then did he find a mechanism. The bookshelf suddenly moved to the side. A deep, pitch-black hole was hidden behind a bookshelf. A long flight of stairs spiraled into the darkness. Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned. This is a secret room? The secret room in the 100 Garden? She didn't expect that the room she was staying in was actually a completely different world. Strangely, she even found out about it. Logically speaking, Ji Wuhua knew that there was a secret room in this room. They shouldn't let an outsider like her stay here, right? He was too confident in himself. Or was he looking down on her, thinking that she wouldn't be able to detect it? The moment the bookshelf moved over. Compared to before, the profound waves were even more intense. It was as if it wanted to drown her completely. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly. Girl, don't be impulsive. Old Man Song had some misgivings. This is the god realm. The secret room in the god realm is too dangerous. Yi Qing Luo's expression was grave, as though she was pondering over something. Hearing Old Man Song's words, she smiled. I know. She looked deeply at the passage. But, since the acting divine emperor wants to see me and Ji Wuhua arranged for me to be in this passage, he should be sure of my safety. She pursed her lips slightly. I'll go in and take a look. If there's any danger, I'll use the teleportation secret technique to leave this place. Old Man Song was very clear that once Yi Qing Luo had decided on something, it would not be easily changed. In the end, he could only sigh and say, be careful. In the pitch-black cave, one couldn't even see their own fingers. The air was still a little damp. It was cold and gloomy. Yi Qing Luo didn't take out the luminous pearl for illumination. Just like that, he walked forward in the darkness. Walking in the tunnel, Yi Qing Luo was almost certain that no one had stepped into this tunnel for a very long time. Because when he stepped into the middle section of the tunnel, it was a flat passageway. The smell of lamp oil could be smelled all around. Moreover, it had been a long time. Following the passageway, they made many turns. Other than the unpleasant smell, there was no danger in the tunnel. The further they went, the fluctuation of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth became stronger and denser. Then, he felt a gust of wind blowing in front of him. It was the end. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked towards the direction where the wind was blowing. Not long after, he saw a ray of clear light shooting over. Following the light, he saw an exit that could accommodate one person. Yiqing Luo wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he stood at the exit and looked outside vigilantly. After confirming that there was no one around, he quietly crawled out from the exit. This exit was built behind a group of artificial mountains. Yiqing Luo's surroundings were not only surrounded by 3 to 4 fake mountains, but also in the middle of a huge lake. There was water in all directions. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings. She did not know where she was. Or perhaps it was somewhere in the 100-flower garden. He only knew that this place had a beautiful environment and was extremely luxurious and rich. These artificial mountains were all carved from the finest jade, and could almost be mistaken for the real thing. Clusters of flowers, lush and lush. This kind of beautiful scenery was not something that could be formed overnight. After Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings and confirmed that there was no one else around, she took a deep breath and leaped up from behind the artificial mountains. Chapter 4765. The fiery red dress, in mid-air, swept away a ray of sunset glow. Perfectly landed, standing in one of the winding corridors of the lake. Just as she stood firm, both her legs were hugged by something. She heard a crisp child's voice coming from below, "Fairy sister. Fairy sister." Yiqing Luo was startled at first, her eyes filled with vigilance. After hearing this voice, her brows overflowed with some astonishment. As soon as she looked down, she saw a jade-carved little guy who was hugging her legs tightly. The little one was really very small. He looked like he was only 5 or 6 years old. Not even as high as her legs. The little one, when hugging her, looking up at her, was extremely adorable. But, where did this little thing come from? She had just confirmed that there was no one around. And, this little child, how could she leave him by the lake? What if he fell into the water? "Fairy sister, why don't you speak?" The little one tilted his little head, his voice crisp and clear. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly, "Let go of me first." "Not letting go." The little one shook his head seriously. "If Cici let go of Fairy sister will run away." Yiqing Luo rubbed his little head. It was furry and soft. Towards children, she didn't hate them, but neither did she like them. After all, such a soft, delicate little one. It seemed that a little force might make him cry. But, this little one in front of her made her inexplicably soften all her emotions. She pulled the little one's hand. "I won't run away." Zun, really?" The little one pursed his little lips, looking at her suspiciously. Yiqing Luo revealed a smile. "Cici looks so cute, how can I bear to lie to you?" The little one's hands that were hugging her legs slowly loosened. But his fingers were still clutching the hem of her skirt. The restraint on both legs was loosened. Yiqing Luo half squatted down, facing the little one. She placed both hands on the little one's shoulders. "See, I didn't lie to you, right? Elder sister Fairy, you're so pretty. You're even prettier than those sisters in my grandfather's family." The little guy blinked his eyes, and stared at her face without blinking. Yiqing Luo smiled as she rubbed his head. "Thank you Cici for your compliment. Cici looks very good too." Because Cici and Fairy sister look alike. Tiny One pointed at his own face and pointed at Yiqing Luo. "We both look good." Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. This little guy was actually saying in a roundabout way that he was good-looking. She picked him up and looked around. Why are you here alone? Don't you have an adult with you? The little guy hooked his little hands around her neck and shook his head with a sad expression. Cece doesn't have a mother. No mother? A single-parent child? She had just heard him mention Grandpa. Could it be that he had lived with his grandfather since he was young? Yiqing Luo gave birth to a sliver of tenderness towards this little one as her voice became much gentler. Then, where is Cece's maternal grandfather? Elder sister will bring you to find him, okay? The little one drooped his head and shook it. Cece doesn't like Grandpa. Grandpa always forces Cece to do things that Cece doesn't like to do, so Cece sneaked out today. Poor little guy. He had no parents since he was young, and lived together with his strict and rigid maternal grandfather. For a child, it was indeed unbearable. The little one suddenly raised his little head, blinking his bright eyes, full of hope. You are elder sister fairy. Can you bring me to find my mother? Chapter 4766. Yiqing Luo was stunned, looking at the little one's hopeful eyes. Her throat was suddenly blocked. She couldn't bear to let this little one down. She smiled and asked softly, Cece, do you know where your mother is? The little one's head drooped down again. I don't know. Yiqing Luo rubbed her little head and comforted, Cece, why don't you take me to your grandfather first? I'll ask him where your mother is, okay? The little one pursed his lips, his face was full of unwillingness. Grandfather won't say. Whenever Cece mentions mother, Grandfather will be very angry and force Cece to do things Cece doesn't want to do. Cece doesn't like Grandfather. The little one's tone was full of grievance. His little hand clutched Yiqing Luo's clothes. Fairy sister, don't send me to Grandfather, okay? As he spoke, the little one's eyes turned red, looking like he was about to cry. Yiqing Luo quickly coaxed, okay, I won't send you. What kind of little ancestor did she have? Just when she was holding the little one, she was at a loss. Suddenly, a panicked voice came from behind him. Io, my young master, why did you come here alone? Following that, a few hurried footsteps could be heard, and they were rushing over. Yiqing Luo turned around and saw an old woman in her 50s, her face full of anxiety. Yiqing Luo could tell at a glance that the old woman's clothes were all made of good quality fabric. It could be seen that this old woman's status was not low. When the old woman came closer and saw Yiqing Luo, her face suddenly changed. Who are you? She ran over hurriedly and saw the little master being carried by a young girl. She thought it was one of the family's maids. But this face, she had no impression at all. The old woman immediately became vigilant and reached out to hold the little one. But the little one hugged Yiqing Luo's neck tightly and refused to let go. Granny Feng, this is Cece's fairy sister, the fairy sister who wants to take Cece to mother. The little one put his head on Yiqing Luo's shoulder and refused to be hugged by the old woman. The old lady stared vigilantly at Yiqing Luo and then looked at the young master who was leaning on the young lady. Her heart was burning with anxiety. But he was afraid of alerting the enemy and hurting his own young master, so he could only look at Yiqing Luo cautiously. Miss, who are you? Why are you at the Feng mansion? The security of the Phoenix mansion was so tight that even a fly couldn't fly in. This girl, how did he get in? Feng Manor? Isn't this the 100-flower garden? How did it become a Phoenix mansion? Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with doubts, but she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she sent the little guy in her arms to the old woman. In the future, don't let a child run to this kind of place. It's very easy to fall into the water. The old lady trembled as she stretched out her hand to receive Tiny Tot, as she stared at Yiqing Luo with vigilance and cautiousness. Miss. Then you. No. I don't want that. Just as the old woman was about to hug the little guy, Xiao Budian suddenly resisted violently. He flailed his limbs about. I don't want to go back with you. I want fairy sister. The little guy was very emotional. Tears welled up in his red eyes. He cried and howled as he struggled. He accidentally kicked the old woman's body. The old woman originally listened to the little master's agitated emotions and wholeheartedly threw herself onto the little master. This kick came down. She couldn't stand properly. Her body staggered and fell into the lake at the side. Chapter 47-67. Be careful. Yi-Ching Luo stretched out her hand and pulled the old lady. The little one in her arms was still kicking her legs agitatedly, totally unaware of the trouble she had caused. Yi-Ching Luo stabilized the old lady, but the momentum made her body unstable as she fell towards the other side of the lake. Little master. The old lady rushed forward in shock, but it was too late. Yi-Ching Luo fell into the lake along with the little one. Water splashed everywhere. The moment Yi-Ching Luo fell into the water, she quickly lifted the little one up. The little one didn't look big, but he was quite heavy. Yi-Ching Luo was somewhat strained. She managed to climb to the side of the lake and sent the little one ashore. The old lady immediately hugged the little one. Little master, are you all right? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Let Granny take a look. The little one was well protected by Yi-Ching Luo. Other than his clothes being wet, there was no other discomfort. The old lady then felt relieved and hugged the little one tightly. The little one broke away from the old lady and looked at Yi-Ching Luo with a face full of worry. Fairy sister, are you all right? The old lady then turned her attention to Yi-Ching Luo. She saw a disheveled Yi-Ching Luo standing on the shore, twisting her wet robe. Although she was vigilant, but after all she was the one who saved the little master. She said softly, young lady, do you want to follow the little master back to his room and change his clothes? Look at the little master's attitude towards this lady. She was afraid that the young lady wouldn't follow. The little master wouldn't obediently change into clean clothes. Moreover, this lady's background was unknown. It would be safer to keep her by her side and let someone check her identity. Yi-Ching Luo naturally saw through the old lady's plan. She was just about to refuse. But her sleeve was held tightly by the little one. He had a, if you don't follow me, I won't change my clothes, attitude. Yi-Ching Luo's heart softened and sighed softly, then I'll have to trouble Granny. Forget it. She didn't have time to bring other clothes to the god realm. Even if she returned to the 100-flower gardens. He was also soaking wet. She might as well follow them to change her clothes. He would wait for an opportunity to slip away. In any case, there seemed to be only this old woman and this little guy in this mansion. The old woman wanted to hug the little guy. However, Xiao Budian kicked his little legs and jumped to the ground. Then he grabbed one of Yi-Ching Luo's fingers and walked beside her. The old lady apologized in a low voice. Yi-Ching Luo shook her head as she lowered her eyes to look at the little one beside her, feeling an inexplicable warmth in her heart. An adult and a child held hands as they walked forward. Water droplets fell from their bodies. On the porcelain tiles that were laid out, it was like a blossoming splash. Not far away, behind the rockery, a few black figures slowly walked out from the darkness, staring at the direction where Yi-Ching Luo left. The black-clothed man at the very front said in a low voice, "Proceed according to the original plan." Yes. The old woman brought her to the little guy's room. First, he helped Tiny Tot change his wet clothes. He then went to the other rooms to search for suitable clothes for Yi-Ching Luo. Fortunately, the weather was hot. Yi-Ching Luo didn't feel cold at all. After a while, the old woman walked over with a set of clothes. The southern hall of the Phoenix Manor hasn't had any lady staying in for many years. This is Little Master. She looked at the smiling Xiao Budian. She stopped what she was about to say and changed her words. These are clothes left behind by my previous master. I hope Miss doesn't mind. Chapter 47-68. The clothes in the old lady's hands looked very new. It was a bright red, like a blooming rose. The exquisite embroidery made the flowers look lifelike. It looked graceful and luxurious. Ordinary people couldn't control this kind of beauty at all. Yi-Ching Luo took the clothes, the touch was very light and soft, the fabric was made of high-quality silk. When Yiqing Luo changed into this red dress, even the old lady couldn't help but reveal a stunned look. She knew that this young lady was beautiful, but she didn't expect that after changing into this luxurious dress with complicated embroidery, the whole person seemed to be even more outstanding. The luxurious long dress couldn't suppress the young lady's bright and dazzling beauty. Especially that pair of long and narrow charming eyes, under this luxurious red dress, seemed to be rippling with flowing lights. "Fairy sister, you look so good." The little guy suddenly pounced forward and hugged Yiqing Luo's leg. He raised his head and stared at her unblinkingly with his delicate, jade-like face. His eyes were filled with sincerity and love for her. Yiqing Luo bent over and gently rubbed the little guy's head. "Next time by the lake, don't fool around, do you hear me?" "I hear you." The little guy nodded obediently. Yiqing Luo rubbed again. "Good boy." The smile on the young lady's face was very bright and gentle. Even the contours of the face were extremely soft and charming. The old lady kept staring at Yiqing Luo, trying to see through her purpose. But on the young lady, the old lady couldn't feel any malicious intent at all. Yiqing Luo knew that the old lady was suspicious of her identity. She patted the little guy's head lightly. "Cici, sister is a little hungry." The little guy immediately turned his head to the old lady. The old lady hesitated for a moment. Then she heard the young lady said with a smile, "Sister wants to eat Cici's things, can Cici share with sister?" The little guy's eyes lit up immediately. "Fairy sister, wait here for Cici, Cici will be here soon." Saying that, he kicked his little legs and ran outside. The old lady whispered behind him, "Be careful, don't run on the long corridor." Until the little guy's figure went into the next room. The old woman returned to the inner hall. On his face, it was no longer the benevolence and gentleness he had when facing Xiao Budian, but vigilance and coldness. "Who exactly are you? Why did he appear in the Feng manor? What's the purpose of getting close to the young master?" "My name is Yiqing Luo and I stay at the 100 Flower Gardens." Yiqing Luo didn't hide anything. However, as for how she had passed through the secret passage of the 100 Flower Garden and arrived at this so-called Feng manor, naturally, she couldn't say it out loud. He blinked his eyes innocently and shook his head innocently. "To be honest, I'm not too sure why I'm here either. It's just that when I opened my eyes, I was already beside the lake. Coincidentally, I was hugged by Cici." This explanation was obviously very far-fetched. How could he have arrived at the Feng mansion just by opening his eyes? However, looking at the innocent expression on the girl's face, he swallowed the question that was on the tip of his tongue. Yiqing Luo, why do I feel that this name is so familiar? Wait a minute, 100 Garden? You are the Flower King's new pet? The old woman was confused. Staring at Yiqing Luo, there were some traces of pity in his eyes. Yiqing Luo shook her head. "No, I'm just staying at the 100 Flower Gardens temporarily. The girls who stay at the 100 Flower Gardens are all the Flower King's women, especially a beautiful girl like you." The old woman obviously didn't believe it. Chapter 4769. As far as Ji Wuhua was concerned, Wild Sand Literature Network, such a beautiful lady. How could he let it go? Since she lived in the 100 Flower Garden, how could she not be Flower King's woman? Wait, that's not the point. The old lady looked serious. The 100 Flower Garden is in the south of the city and the north of the city. They are quite far away from each other. Moreover, the Phoenix residence is heavily guarded. How did you open your eyes and appear in the Phoenix residence? I also want to ask you the same question. Yiqing Luo looked helpless. I wouldn't be surprised if I knew. She sighed and said, Cici was the first to discover me. You can ask Cici if I appeared in the Phoenix Manor out of thin air. Otherwise, why would Cici suddenly call me fairy sister? The old lady looked serious. She pondered for a moment and said, "No matter if what you said is true or not, I can only ask you to stay in the Phoenix residence and wait for Flower King to pick you up." Yi Qing Luo. Was this illegal imprisonment? And she had to ask Ji Wuhua, that peacock, to redeem her? That secret passage was obviously Ji Wuhua's doing. Ji Wuhua came. Didn't he know that she had found out about the secret passage? This was her first day in the God realm. Did she have to make such a big fuss? However, looking at the old woman's face, although there was nothing special about her, her eyes were filled with a cold and sharp light. She paused and said, "Thank you, Granny." She believed. If she refused, this old woman would definitely use a very rude method to forcefully detain her in the Feng manner. Now she agreed. At least she could be treated politely. And she could still move freely. But she had to think of a way to get back to the 100-flower garden before Ji Wuhua came. Thump. Suddenly, there was a slight noise from the next room. Something hit the ground. The old lady's expression changed and called out anxiously, "Young master." He hurriedly walked toward the room next door. When she left the room, she didn't forget to lock the door. Yi Qing Luo. Did she really treat her as a prisoner? Couldn't she follow her to check on Tiny? Why did she have to be locked up? However, the old woman had already hurried to the next room. He was worried about the little guy's safety. She gave up and did not ask the old woman to open the door. He casually pulled a chair and sat down in front of the round mahogany table. She poured herself a cup of tea and waited quietly for the old woman. About the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Yi Qing Luo heard a squeaking sound, the sound of the room door being opened. "Is Cece all right?" "Granny Feng, I heard that Cece fell into the water." "What happened?" Two voices sounded at the same time. The sounds overlapped. It was a young girl with a clear and melodious voice. It was a rough and dignified male voice, which was obviously the demeanor of a superior. Both sides were startled. When Yi Qing Luo turned back, what entered her eyes was a dignified and handsome face. He was dressed in a navy blue brocade robe with complicated patterns, looking noble and dignified. He looked to be in his 50s. His temples were white, but he was hale and spirited. That pair of black and burning eyes flashed with an elite sharpness. That straight and handsome face. Inexplicably, there was an extreme sense of familiarity. But the other party was staring at Yi Qing Luo's face without blinking. The old man's face was filled with disbelief, shock, and astonishment. In the end, even his body started to tremble slightly. It's you," the old man spoke in a trembling voice. Tears welled up in his eyes as he took slightly trembling steps towards Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 4770. Feng Gu. It's you. It's you, you're back. The elderly's hands held Yi Qing Luo's hands. He used a lot of strength. Yi Qing Luo wanted to struggle, but felt the trembling of the elderly's hands, and the heat in his palms. She couldn't bear to do this. Especially when she saw the elderly's old tears, calling out Feng Gu word by word. Yi Qing Luo's heart seemed to be stabbed by something, fiercely. She allowed the elderly to grab her. The elderly's old tears flowed as he muttered to himself. The large palms which held Yi Qing Luo's hands trembled even more. Just at this moment, hurried footsteps were heard from outside the door. The old lady's slightly bewildered voice rang from outside the door. "Miss, what did you say your name earlier?" "I remember, where did I hear your name?" When the old lady stepped into the room, and saw the scene in the room, the expression on her face congealed instantly. Following that, she bowed respectfully, "Patriarch." The old lady's voice when she barged in earlier was very loud. It made the elderly, who was in tears, suddenly awakened. He stared blankly at Yi Qing Luo, as his eyes seemed to be surging with some emotions. "You." The elderly, who had calmed down, slowly let go of Yi Qing Luo's hands. "No. You're not Feng Gu, you're not my Xiao Gu. Feng Gu was already dead. Long dead. Ma, patriarch, why are you here? The old lady's tone was slightly apprehensive. The elderly slowly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Granny Feng, what's going on? She. Where did she come from? Although the elderly's words were directed at the old lady, but his eyes were still fixated on Yiqing Luo without blinking. As though afraid that she would shift her gaze. As though she would disappear. That gaze made Yiqing Luo's heart ache. Patriarch. The old lady took a look at the elderly, and lowered her head uncertainly. I'm not too sure. She told him how she saw Yiqing Luo, in a concise and comprehensive manner. Following that, she asked hesitantly, Patriarch, you know. This lady? This was the first time she saw the patriarch losing his composure like that. And thinking back to her own guess, the expression on the old lady's face became even more solemn. What did you say her name was just now? The old man finally shifted his gaze and looked at the old woman. The old lady took a look at Yiqing Luo and immediately suppressed the various thoughts in her heart as she said word by word, replying to Patriarch, this young lady's name is Yiqing Luo. This old servant had once heard this name from Patriarch's mouth. Qing Luo. The old man's body stiffened again. The redness in her eyes, which she had just suppressed, immediately turned sour again. His trembling hand, bit by bit, moved towards Yiqing Luo's cheek. That wrinkled face was filled with disbelief. You're called Qing Luo? Are you really called Qing Luo? When the elderly man's hand almost touched Yiqing Luo's face, the girl's fair hand gently grasped the old man's wrist. She looked up and met the old man's inquisitive and shocked gaze. She frowned slightly and said, You. What is your relationship with Feng Gu? Yiqing Luo knew that she looked similar to her mother whom she had never met before. As for the old man in front of them, at first glance, he had mistaken her for Feng Gu. Furthermore, the fluctuation of his emotions was a little strange. Apparently, his relationship with Feng Gu was very good. Yiqing Luo had some guesses in her heart. I am Feng Ji's father. The old man said word by word as he stared at Yiqing Luo. Chapter 47-71. The elderly looked at her face, as though he was looking at the most precious thing in the world. His heart was trembling violently. This face. This name. Whether it was real or fake, it was enough. In his heart, a huge wave was set off. Yiqing Luo listened to the elderly's words. The expression on her face congealed. Feng Ji's father? That meant her maternal grandfather? Wait a minute. Her mother was someone from thousands of years ago. Then, how old was her mother's father? This leap was a little too big. She was a little dazed now. This was a little illogical. The elderly stared at Yiqing Luo's face. You and Xiao Gu really look too alike. Too alike. An 80% similar appearance to Feng Gu. Wearing Feng Ji's clothes. That bright and disdainful look was exactly the same as the style in her memory. If it wasn't for that pair of eyes. Compared to Feng Gu, who had been standing on the throne for many years, there was an obvious difference. The elderly really wanted to treat this young lady in front of him as his own daughter. Qing Luo. You are Qing Luo, right? The elderly's voice trembled as he probed with some hope. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips and nodded slowly. Yes, I am Yiqing Luo. She paused and asked again, You know me? Xiao Ji's daughter. As her father, how could I not know? The elderly stretched out his hand and held Yiqing Luo's hand once again. Patriarch. The old lady's expression congealed. She took a look at Yiqing Luo and looked at the elderly and lowered her voice. Patriarch, this young lady appeared out of thin air. Similar looks. And coincidentally, her name was Qing Luo. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? If this was just a trap. A trap to destroy the Feng residence. To old patriarch, what kind of blow was this? This young lady's identity must be thoroughly investigated. However, the elderly didn't care as both his hands held Yi Qing Luo's hand tightly, even if it's fake. To let me see Xiao Gu again, or to imagine countless times. To see Xiao Ji's daughter. I am willing. The elderly's voice was choked with sobs. That was the elderly's longing for his loved ones. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were slightly red and her nose felt a little sour as she held on to the elderly man's wrinkled hand. She could feel it. The old man truly missed Feng Gu. Fairy sister, this is Cece's favorite cherry blossom cake. The little guy strode with his short legs, and trotted in with thumping thumps. She was also holding a plate of desserts in her hands. After rushing into the room. When he saw that dignified and tall figure, his smile immediately froze on his face. Ji grandfather, Xiao Budian seemed to be frightened, and suddenly stood up straight. The small plate in his hand was trembling slightly. Young master. The old woman, Granny Feng, pulled Tiny Tot to her and stroked his head to comfort him. The old man turned his head and looked at the pale-faced Tiny Tot who was hiding beside Granny Feng's leg. He waved at him. The little guy was a bit scared, but he still bit his lower lip and moved to the elder's side with small steps. The elderly man pulled Tiny Tot over and hugged him in his arms, then made him face Yi Qing Luo. Do you know her? Tiny Tot looked at Yi Qing Luo. A frightened expression appeared on his face. Grandfather, I won't dare to play any more in the future. Grandfather, don't punish fairy sister, okay? Grandfather didn't punish her. The old man patted Tiny Tot's head lightly. You like her a lot? Tiny Tot immediately shook his head. No. Cece doesn't like her. Grandfather, let her go, okay? Chapter 4772. Xiao Ji's daughter, as her father, how could I not know? The old man stretched out his hand and held Yi Qing Luo's hand once again. Patriarch. The old woman's expression was tense. She looked at Yi Qing Luo and the old man and lowered her voice. Patriarch, this lady appeared out of thin air, similar appearance. And her name was also Qing Luo. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? If this was just a trap. A trap to destroy the Feng residence, what kind of blow would this be to the old patriarch? This girl's identity must be thoroughly investigated. However, the old man didn't care. Both hands held Yi Qing Luo's hand tightly, even if it's fake. To let me see Xiao Gu again, or to imagine countless times, to see Xiao Ji's daughter. I am willing. The old man's voice was choked with emotion. That was the old man's longing for his loved ones. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were slightly red, her nose was a little sour as she held the old man's wrinkled hand. She could feel it. The old man really missed Feng Gu. Elder sister fairy, this is Cece's favorite cherry blossom cake. The little guy strode with his short legs, and trotted in with thumping thumps. He was holding a plate of snacks in his hand. After rushing into the room. Seeing that majestic figure, the smile on his face immediately froze. Grandpa. Grandpa, the little guy seemed to be frightened and suddenly stood up straight. The small plate in his hand was trembling slightly. Young master. The old woman Granny Feng pulled the little guy towards her and stroked his head comfortingly. The old man turned his head and looked at the little guy who was hiding beside Granny Feng's leg with a slightly pale face and waved at him. The little guy was a little scared, but he still bit his lower lip and moved to the old man's side in small steps. The old man pulled the little guy and hugged him in his arms, then turned him to face Yi Qing Luo. Do you know her? The little guy looked at Yi Qing Luo, a frightened expression appeared on his face. Grandpa, I dare not to play anymore. Grandpa, don't punish fairy sister. Grandpa didn't punish her. The old man patted the little guy's head lightly. Do you like her very much? Xiao Budian immediately shook his head. No. Cece doesn't like her. Grandpa, can you let her go? The elder's large palm covered the little guy's head, and helplessly shook his head. Soon after, he raised his head and stared deeply at the young girl in front of him with slightly red eyes. I can see that. Cece really likes you. He sighed softly. This child has never let me touch his head like this. In order to make him let go of this girl in front of him. His Cece was clearly afraid of his approach, but she allowed him to do whatever he wanted. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips slightly as she stretched out both her hands towards Tiny Tot, bringing him into her embrace. She lightly hooked her lips and extended her hand towards Xiao Budian. The little guy hesitated and didn't dare to move. His black and white eyes were clearly distinguishable, and he was even trying to signal her with his eyes. Yiqing Luo was overwhelmed by his cuteness. She took the initiative to walk over and pulled Xiao Budian into her embrace from the old man's hands. Grandfather treats me very well and didn't punish me. Yiqing Luo poked his little head. What on earth are you thinking in that little head of yours? Tiny Tot's eyes immediately brightened up. Really? You don't believe, sister? Yiqing Luo pretended to be displeased and straightened her face. Tiny Tot shook his head like a rattle drum. I believe, sister. Chapter 4773. The old man's finger touched the girl's forehead. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the old man's fingers trembling slightly. The rough touch caressed her skin. After confirming that the cherry blossom totem wasn't a fake, Lin Yun immediately turned around. The old man's hand trembled even more violently. Yiqing Luo put him down, stretched out her hand and held the old man's palm. According to the current situation, I indeed should call you grandfather. Her pink lips curled up slightly, and her charming eyes were filled with sincerity. I don't need to doubt your identities, and she paused. How do you want to investigate? I'll cooperate. There was no guilt or other emotions on the girl's face. He was just so frank and honest. The old man held the young girl's soft hand and said in a choked voice, Okay. Grandpa believes you. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with gentleness. She had indeed thought of going to the God realm to search for her origins. But he had never thought that he would still have relatives other than his mother who still existed in this world. He had never thought that he would appear in front of his grandfather in such a way. Tiny Tot's name was Feng Shi, and he was the only young master of the Feng Mansion. The old man was the master of the Phoenix Mansion. Yiqing Luo understood. The profound practitioners of the God realm were completely capable of maintaining their appearance and form. Even if Feng family master wanted to meet people as a teenager, there was no problem at all. However, Feng clan master felt that he had lived for so long and had another grandson. He had to act like a grandfather. He learned from the words of Master Feng. Master Feng had indeed lived for thousands of years. He had also been the head of the Phoenix Mansion for thousands of years. She wholeheartedly stayed in Feng Manor, guarding the home that her daughter cared about the most. She accompanied Master Feng until the evening. Granny Feng came to call for dinner. Feng family's patriarch then pulled Yiqing Luo's hand and left the room. Granny Feng took a few glances at Yiqing Luo, but due to Patriarch Feng's elated mood, in the end, he didn't say anything. Yiqing Luo was very clear that her sudden appearance was in this kind of identity. If it had been anyone else, they would not have been able to believe her identity so quickly. After all, the Phoenix Mansion wasn't an ordinary family. One wrong step, and what awaited them would be many more wrong steps. However, Patriarch Feng didn't seem to care at all. His eyes were full of kindness and kindness of an elder. Yiqing Luo followed behind Patriarch Feng, looking at the old man's gray hair and tightly pursed pink lips. She asked softly, aren't you afraid that I'm just lying to you? It seemed like, ever since she appeared, Feng clan master didn't seem to doubt her at all. Especially after she revealed the cherry blossom totem on her forehead. Even more so. The old man's body stiffened. But soon, he continued to walk forward. The aged voice didn't conceal its gentleness. The moment I saw you, I knew that you were little Ge's daughter. Your eyes can't lie. I believe you. 3 simple words. I believe you. This made Yiqing Luo's eyes slightly warm. With a chuckle, she quickened her steps and held onto the old man's arm. Although grandfather trusts me unconditionally, in order to be more justifiable, I can accept any method of verification. There's no rush. The old man patted the back of her hand. We'll talk about it when your uncle comes back. Little uncle? She still had a little uncle? Yiqing Luo felt that this trip to God realm was really fated. She recognized one after another. Chapter 4774. After having a meal with the old man, she chatted with him for a while. Until Yiqing Luo agreed more than 10 times to stay in the Feng residence. The old man then went to rest contentedly. Yiqing Luo played with little Feng Shi for a while. The sky was getting dark. Granny Feng left with Feng Shi. The room that Patriarch Feng prepared for her was the room that Feng Gu used to stay in. The room was very clean and everything was new. She could tell that it had been cleaned and taken good care of for a long time. Yiqing Luo looked at the furnishings in the room one by one. She could imagine what kind of person her mother was. When she was lying on her mother's bed, Yiqing Luo could vaguely smell a faint fragrance. Was this her mother's smell? She smelled the faint fragrance. Yiqing Luo gradually felt sleepy. In a daze, she seemed to dream of a woman. A woman in a gorgeous red dress. The woman's back was facing her. She turned her head slightly. Illusory, the white fog blurred everything in front of her. She couldn't see the woman's face clearly. She could only vaguely hear a gentle murmur, calling her name over and over again. Qing Luo, that voice made Yiqing Luo's heart tightly clenched together. She wanted to open her mouth to respond. But her throat seemed to be blocked by something. She couldn't say a word. Suddenly, she opened her eyes abruptly and sat up on the bed. It was pitch black in the room. Only the light silver moonlight shone in from the open window. Yiqing Luo was gasping for air. In his mind, the image of the indistinct figure in his dream floated up. Her fair little hand slowly lifted up and pressed on her heart. That woman whose face couldn't be seen clearly. It was her mother, right? It was her mother. Calling her name, right? If it wasn't her mother, why did those calls cause her heart to throb in pain? In the darkness, the young lady slowly closed her eyes. To let her emotions calm down slightly. Staying in the room that her mother used to stay in. Then she dreamt of her mother. Actually, it was better to think about her. Thinking about that. Even if she had never met her mother, they were blood-related. Yiqing Luo was closing her eyes to calm down. Suddenly, his ears twitched. She opened her eyes. A pair of long and narrow eyes flickered with a cold light in the darkness. Someone was there. She quietly slid down from the bed and approached the open window. From this angle, he could see the surroundings of the courtyard. The courtyard was quiet. The silver moonlight shone coldly. There was no one around. Yiqing Luo's eyes congealed slightly as she felt a little strange. She had clearly sensed that there was someone outside the door. How could this be? Wait a minute. Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly changed as she reacted. In the blink of an eye, he turned his head in alarm. However, a cold and gloomy aura came from behind. She could only see 2 people in black robes flashing past her eyes. In the next instant, she lost consciousness. Bang! There was a deafening knock on the door. The tall man rushed into the room and searched everywhere. Such a commotion shocked everyone else in the Phoenix Manor awake. Granny Feng was the first to arrive. Behind her were numerous Phoenix Manor guards. When she saw the room that Yi Qing Luo was staying in temporarily, the door had collapsed to the ground. A tall figure stood in the darkness, emitting a gloomy aura. Granny Feng was stunned. "You? Who are you?" The guard surrounded the room. Full of vigilance, you're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.